The Travels of Marco Polo, Chapter 52, of the wandering life of the Tartars, of their domestic manners, their food, and the virtue of their women. Now that I've begun speaking of the Tartars, I will tell you more about them. The Tartars never remain in one place, but as the winter approaches, move to the plains of a warmer region in order to find sufficient pasture for their cattle. In summer, they frequent cold areas in the mountains, where there is water and vegetation, and where their cattle are free from horseflies and other biting insects. During 2 or 3 months, they progressively climb to higher ground to seek fresh pasture, the grass in any one place not being adequate to feed the multitudes of their herds and flocks. Their huts or tents are formed of rods covered with felt, and being perfectly round and neatly put together, they can gather them into one bundle and make them up as packages, which they carry along with them upon a sort of cart of 4 wheels. When they have occasion to set them up, they always face the entrance to the south. Besides these carts, they have a better kind of vehicle upon 2 wheels, also covered with a black felt, and so effectually as to protect those within from wet throughout the whole day of rain. These are drawn by oxen and camels and serve to carry their wives and children, their utensils, and such provisions as they require. It is the women who attend to their traveling concerns, who buy and sell, and provide everything necessary for their husbands and families, the time of the men being entirely devoted to hunting, hawking, and matters that relate to the military life. They have the best falcons in the world, and also the best dogs. They subsist entirely upon flesh and milk, eating the game they catch, and a certain small animal called Pharaoh's mice, the jerboa, which is not unlike a rabbit and which is found during the summer season in great abundance in the plains. But they likewise eat meat of every description, including horses, camels, and even dogs, provided they are fat. They drink mare's milk, which they prepare in such a manner that it has the qualities and flavor of white wine. Their women are not excelled for chastity and decency of conduct, nor for love and duty to their husbands. Infidelity to the marriage bed is regarded by them as a vice not merely dishonorable, but of the most infamous nature. It is also wonderful to see the loyalty of the husbands toward their wives, among whom, although there are perhaps 10 or 20, there is a unity and accord that is very praiseworthy. No offensive language is ever heard, their attention being fully occupied with their own affairs and their domestic duties, such as providing food for the family, the management of the servants, and the care of the children, who are cared for in common. The men are allowed as many wives as they want, their expense to the husband is not great, and on the other hand, the benefits he derives from their training and the work they do is considerable. For each, he first makes payment to the mother. The first wife has the most privileges and is held to be the most truly legitimate, and this extends also to the children born by her. In consequence of this unlimited number of wives, they have more children than any other people. Upon the death of the father, the son may take for himself the wives he leaves behind, with the exception of his own mother. They cannot marry their sisters, but upon the death of their brothers, they can take their sisters-in-law. Every marriage is solemnized with great ceremony. Chapter 53 of the God of the Tartars and of Tartar Dress. The doctrine and faith of the Tartars are these. They believe in a deity whose nature is sublime and heavenly. To him they burn incense and offer up prayers for the enjoyment of intellectual and bodily health. They also worship another named Natigay, whose image, covered with felt or other cloth, every individual preserves in his house. Next to this deity, they set images of a wife and children, placing the former on his left side and the latter before him. They consider him the divinity who presides over the earthly concerns, protects their children, and guards their cattle and their grain. They show him great respect, and at their meals they never fail to take a fat morsel of the flesh, and with it grease the mouth of the idol, and at the same time the mouths of its wife and children. They then toss out of the door some of the liquid in which the meat was been dressed, as an offering to the other spirits. This done, they consider that the deity and his family have had their proper share and proceed to eat and drink without further ceremony. The wealthy Tartars dress in cloth of gold and silks, with skins of the sable, the ermine, and other animals, all in the richest fashion. Chapter 54, concerning the Tartar customs of war. Their arms are bows, iron maces, and in some instances spears, but the first of these is the weapon at which they are the most expert, being accustomed from childhood to use it in their sports. They wear armor made from buffalo hides and those of other beasts, dried by fire and thus rendered extremely hard and strong. They are brave in battle, almost to desperation, setting little value upon their lives and exposing themselves without hesitation to all manner of danger. Their disposition is cruel. They are capable of enduring every kind of privation, and when there is a necessity for it, can live for a month on the milk of their mares, kumis, the favorite drink of Asiatic nomads, and upon such wild animals as they may chance to catch. Their horses are fed upon grass alone, and do not require barley or other grain. The men are trained to remain on horseback for 2 days and nights without dismounting, and sleep in that position while their horses graze. No people on earth can surpass them in fortitude under difficulties, nor show greater patience under privation of every kind. They are most obedient to their chiefs, and are maintained at little cost. It is because of these qualities, so essential to the making of a soldier, that they are fitted to subdue the world, as in fact they have done to a considerable portion of it. When one of the great Tartar chiefs proceeds on an expedition, he puts himself at the head of an army of 100,000 horsemen, and organizes them in the following manner. He appoints an officer to the command of every 10 men, and others to command 100. 1,000, and 10,000 men, respectively. Thus, 10 of the officers commanding 10 men take their orders from the one who commands 100. Of these, each 10 from him who commands 1,000, and each 10 of these latter from him who commands 10,000. By this arrangement, each officer has only to attend to the management of 10 men or 10 groups of men, and all are implicitly obedient to their respective superiors. Every company of 100 men is dominated by a tuk, and 10 of these constitute a toman. When the army goes into battle, a body of 200 men is sent 2 days' march in advance, and parties are stationed on each flank and in the rear in order to prevent a surprise. When their goal is far off, they carry but little with them, and then chiefly what is needed for their encampment and for cooking. They subsist for the most part upon milk. Each man has, on average, 18 horses and mares, and as soon as one wearies, his rider changes to another. In case of rain, they are provided with small tents made of felt. Should it be necessary, they can march for 10 days without lighting fire or taking a meal. During this time, they subsist upon the blood drawn from their horses, each man opening a vein in one of his own cattle and drinking from it. They also make use of milk, thickened and dried to the state of paste, or curd, which is prepared in the following manner. They boil the milk, and skimming off the rich or creamy part as it rises to the top, put it into a vessel as butter. As long as that remains in the milk, it will not become hard. The latter is then exposed to the sun until it dries. Upon going into battle, they carry with them about 10 pounds for each man, and every morning half a pound of this is put into a leather flask with as much water as is thought necessary. As they ride, these flasks are violently shaken up, and a thin porridge is produced, upon which they make their dinner. When these Tartars come to engage in battle, they never mix with the enemy, but keep hovering about him, firing arrows first from one side, then from the other, occasionally pretending to fly, and during their flight, shooting arrows backwards at their pursuers, killing men and horses as easily as if they were fighting face to face. In this sort of warfare, the adversary imagines he has gained a victory when in fact he has lost the battle. For the Tartars, noting the damage they have done to him, wheel about and, renewing the fight, overpower his remaining troops and make them prisoners in spite of their utmost exertions. Their horses are so well trained that upon a given signal, they instantly turn in any direction. By such rapid maneuvers, they have won many victories. All that has been here related concerns the early Tartar chiefs. At present day, they are much degenerated. Those who dwell in Cathay forsake their own laws and have adopted the customs of the people who worship idols. And those who inhabit the eastern provinces, the Levant, have adopted the manners of the Saracens.